The first time Hannah Ellis leaned over my desk, I forgot the name of my own company. Not my finest professional moment. One second, I was Ryan Mercer, 25, reasonably competent product analyst at a small marketing software firm in Portland, Oregon. The next, I was a man staring at a laptop screen like it had started speaking ancient Greek, while the woman I had been quietly, stupidly, respectfully crushing on for 6 months stood close enough for her sleeve to brush my arm. "Look right here," she said, tapping my screen with one burgundy-painted nail. "The client journey breaks on the pricing page." I looked. At least I tried to. But Hannah had leaned across my desk from the side, one hand braced near my keyboard, her dark hair falling over one shoulder, her perfume light and clean, like orange peel and something warmer. She wore a cream sweater, black trousers, and the dangerous confidence of a woman who knew exactly what she was doing with a spreadsheet and possibly with my nervous system. My cursor hovered over nothing. My brain offered no assistance. Hannah turned her head, caught me looking at the wrong thing entirely, and grinned. Distracted? I sat back so fast my chair squeaked. The whole office heard it. 3 people looked over. I cleared my throat like a man testifying before Congress. "No, I'm focused." "On the pricing page?" "Deeply. The pricing page is over there." She pointed again. I looked at the screen this time because I did still want health insurance. Hannah laughed under her breath, not cruelly. That was the problem with her. If she'd been mean, I could have been sensible. If she'd flirted with every guy in the office, I could have written it off as habit. But she didn't. She was sharp with everyone, warm with a few, and with me she had developed this very specific habit of standing just slightly too close and saying my name like she was testing whether I'd drop something. I usually did. A pen, a thought, my dignity. I worked at Lumabridge, a company that made customer onboarding software sound more exciting than it was. My job was to study where users clicked, where they hesitated, and where they gave up entirely. In other words, I was paid to notice patterns. Except the pattern between Hannah and me had been obvious for months, and I had pretended not to see it. Partly because she was our lead brand designer, terrifyingly talented, and the kind of person who could make a terrible idea look good before gently explaining why it was still terrible. Partly because office romances were a bad idea, and partly because 2 years earlier, at my first job, I'd asked out a coworker who I thought had been flirting with me. She hadn't been. She was kind about it, but someone overheard, someone made jokes, and for 3 months I became Romeo in Slack reactions every time I spoke to a woman. So now I had rules. Don't assume. Don't stare. Don't flirt unless she starts it, and even then pretend she's just Canadian. Hannah Ellis made those rules useless by Tuesday morning. She straightened and stole my coffee without asking. "Hey," I said. She took a sip, made a face, and handed it back. "That tastes like regret and printer toner." "It's dark roast." "It's a cry for help." "You came to my desk to insult my beverage?" "I came to save your numbers from my design brilliance." "That sounds backwards." "It usually is with you." I looked up at her. You know, some people start collaboration with hello. And some people drink sadness from a mug that says, "Ask me about conversion rates." We all have flaws. I tried not to smile. Failed. That was the thing. Hannah didn't just look beautiful leaning over my desk. She made the room change temperature. She made the work feel less like rows of data and more like a puzzle we were solving together. She challenged me without making me feel small. She laughed at my driest jokes. She remembered that I hated cilantro and once rearranged an entire team lunch order because, in her words, Ryan has suffered enough. I was attracted to her, yes. Anyone with eyes and a functioning pulse would have been. But I was drawn to the way she noticed things. Like how she had caught me staying late 3 nights in a row and left a granola bar on my keyboard with a sticky note that said, "Your blood sugar is not a productivity strategy." Or how she argued with our boss, Marcy, until the new intern got credit for a campaign idea everyone else had talked over. Or how, when she was thinking hard, she twisted her ring around her thumb, even though it wasn't a wedding ring, just silver with a tiny moon stamped into it. I knew that because I noticed patterns. Unfortunately, I also noticed when she stopped joking. It happened at 10:42. We had moved from my desk to the small conference room by the windows. Hannah sat beside me instead of across from me because she said, "I'm not yelling design notes at you like we're divorced." I said, "Were we married long?" "Long enough for me to get the good chair." We were reviewing a demo for a big pitch the next day. The client was a national coffee chain, and if we landed them, Lumabridge could stop pretending the office snack budget was seasonal. Hannah clicked through her mock-ups on her tablet. "See, if we shift the testimonial higher, it feels warmer." "Warmer how?" "Less like software. More like someone is helping you before you realize you're lost." I glanced at her. "That's strangely beautiful for a landing page." She looked at me then, really looked, and for a second the room went quiet in that specific way offices almost never do. Phones rang outside. Someone laughed near the kitchen. A printer jammed with the bitter drama of a machine that hated us all. But Hannah didn't look away. "Careful, Mercer," she said softly. "If you compliment me like that, I might start expecting it." My voice came out lower than I meant it to. "Maybe you should." Her thumb paused on the edge of the tablet. There it was. The line we never crossed, drawn right on the conference table between an open laptop and two empty coffee cups. Then Marcy's voice snapped through the open door. "There you two are, good. I need my favorite unpaid miracle workers." Hannah leaned back first. I pretended to study a chart like it had personally betrayed me. Marcy Voss, our creative director, swept in carrying 3 folders, and the anxious energy of a woman who drank espresso like hydration was a rumor. "Bad news," she said. "Derek has food poisoning." Hannah winced. "Pitch Derek?" "Unless we have another Derek hidden in storage, yes." I sat up. "The client pitch is tomorrow." "Correct." Derek was presenting the user flow. "Also correct." Hannah slowly turned toward me. I didn't like the look on Marcy's face. Marcy dropped a folder in front of me, then one in front of Hannah. "You two built the strongest part of the deck. You know the logic, she knows the story. You're presenting together." I should have been worried about the pitch. Instead, all I could think was that Hannah and I would be standing shoulder to shoulder in front of 12 executives, pretending we didn't have 6 months of almost something humming under every sentence. Hannah recovered first. "Fine, but Ryan needs a better shirt." I looked down at my blue button-down. "What's wrong with this shirt?" "It says you know pivot tables but have never been kissed in good lighting." Marcy blinked. I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that? I wasn't sure I had survived it. By lunch, Hannah had dragged me to the sample room where old campaign boards and emergency blazers went to die. She found a charcoal jacket hanging behind a rack of branded tote bags and held it up to my shoulders. "See," she said, "already less tax audit. You're enjoying this." "A little." "You dress all your coworkers?" "No." Her eyes flicked to mine. "Just the ones who freeze when I lean over their desks." My mouth went dry. She stepped closer to adjust the lapel, her fingers brushing the collar near my throat. Not accidental. Not exactly innocent either. I could have made a joke, I should have. Instead, I said, "Hannah." Her hand stilled. For one brave, reckless second, I thought I was going to say it. Not everything. Not some dramatic confession beside a box of discontinued brochures. Just enough. "I like you. I think you know. Tell me I'm not imagining this." But before I could get any of it out, someone behind us coughed. We turned. Derek stood in the doorway, pale, sweaty, and very much not home with food poisoning. His eyes moved from Hannah's hands on my jacket to my face, then back to her. "Wow," he said. "So it's true." Hannah's fingers dropped from my collar. Marcy appeared behind Derek holding her phone, her expression tight. "Ryan," she said carefully, "why is there a rumor going around that you and Hannah are already a couple?" Then my phone buzzed on the shelf beside me. A message from an unknown number lit up the screen. "If you're pretending with her tomorrow, you should know she's leaving after the pitch." I stared at the message until the words blurred. "If you're pretending with her tomorrow, you should know she's leaving after the pitch." Leaving. The word hit harder than it had any right to. Hannah wasn't my girlfriend. She wasn't even my almost girlfriend, technically. She was my coworker who stole my coffee, insulted my shirts, and occasionally stood close enough to make me forget basic motor skills. Still, my chest tightened like someone had slipped a hand between my ribs. "Ryan," Marcy said. I locked my phone and slid it into my pocket. Derek was still watching us with the grim satisfaction of a man who had either solved a mystery or started a fire. "What rumor?" Hannah asked, and her voice was calm in a way that made me look at her. Marcy sighed. "That you and Ryan have been secretly dating for months, and that's why you're presenting together tomorrow." "That's ridiculous," I said too quickly. Hannah's eyebrow lifted. I added, "The rumor part, not the… we're not…" "Smooth," Derek muttered. Hannah turned to him. "Aren't you supposed to be dying privately?" "I came in to get my laptop." "You brought office gossip with you? Brave." Derek flushed. "I didn't start it." "Who did?" Marcy asked. He hesitated. That hesitation said more than his answer would have. Marcy pinched the bridge of her nose. "I don't care who started it. I care that tomorrow's pitch doesn't turn into a high school cafeteria. You two are the best people to present." "Are you able to be professional?" "Yes," I said. "Absolutely," Hannah said. We answered at the same time, which made us look guilty. Marcy looked between us and gave the kind of tired smile managers develop after watching adults behave like raccoons in cardigans. "Great. Then prove it. Rehearsal in the big conference room at 4. She left. Derek lingered. Hannah stared at him until he backed away. "Laptop," he said weakly. "It's on your desk," she replied. He vanished. For a moment, the sample room was quiet except for the hum of the vent and the distant clack of keyboards outside. Hannah turned back to me. "What did your phone say?" I should have lied. I almost did. But Hannah had a way of making lies feel cheap before you even told them. I took out my phone and handed it to her. She read the message. Her expression changed for only half a second, but I saw it. Surprise, then something guarded. "So," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "Are you?" "Am I what?" "Leaving after the pitch." She handed the phone back. "That's complicated." The wrong answer, or maybe exactly the answer I'd been afraid of. I nodded. "Right." "Ryan." "It's fine." "It's clearly not fine. Your jaw is doing that thing." "What thing?" "The thing where you look like you're politely trying not to bite through a spoon." I wanted to laugh. I wanted to ask her to stay. I wanted to not care enough to ask anything. Instead, I said, "You don't owe me an explanation." Her face softened, and somehow that was worse. "No," she said, "but I might want to give you one." The air shifted again. She stepped closer, not teasing now, close enough that I could see the tiny flecks of amber in her brown eyes. "I got an offer," she said. "A design director role at a studio in Seattle." I should have said congratulations immediately. A better man would have. I managed, "That's huge." "It is. You'd be amazing." "I know." That startled a laugh out of me. Her mouth curved. "I didn't say I was humble. No one's accused you. But I haven't accepted." She folded her arms, then unfolded them like she didn't know what to do with her hands. "They want an answer tomorrow night. After the pitch." My stomach dropped again, but this time I knew enough to hide it poorly. Hannah watched me. "Say something." "What do you want me to say?" The truth would be weird but refreshing. I ran a hand over the back of my neck. "The truth is, I'm happy for you. And I hate the idea of you leaving. And those two feelings are apparently having a knife fight in my chest." Her eyes went very still. There. I'd said too much. Or maybe, for once, just enough. Hannah looked down at the jacket she'd chosen for me, still hanging crooked on my shoulders. Then she reached up and fixed the lapel again, slower this time. Her fingers rested there. "You know," she said, "for a man who analyzes hesitation professionally, you do a lot of it." My heartbeat had become an unhelpful drumline. "That's because hesitation has saved me from making an idiot of myself." "Has it?" "Occasionally. With me?" I couldn't look away from her. "No," I said. "With you, I think it's mostly wasted time." Her breath caught. Tiny, almost nothing, but I heard it. Then the office door down the hall slammed, and someone shouted about missing presentation clickers and the spell cracked before it could become something dangerous. Hannah stepped back, but she was smiling now. Not her usual sharp grin. Something quieter. 4 o'clock rehearsal, she said. Right. And Ryan? Yeah? If we're going to be accused of secretly dating, we should at least have better chemistry than Derek thinks we do. I don't know. Derek looked pretty convinced. Derek thinks paprika is spicy. His standards are unreliable. By 4, the rumor had spread in that magical corporate way where no one admitted to knowing, but everyone suddenly had excellent posture when we entered the conference room together. Hannah handled it better than I did. She walked in with her tablet under one arm, leaned toward me and whispered, "Smile, it'll make them nervous." So I smiled. 2 people looked away immediately. "Good boy," she murmured. I nearly tripped over a chair. The rehearsal itself should have been a disaster. Instead, it was the best we'd ever done. Hannah opened with the story, the tired commuter, the coffee app, the moment a customer wanted ease more than options. Her voice warmed the room. She made software feel human. Then she handed it to me with a glance that said, "Your turn." And I walked them through the data without burying everyone alive in percentages. We found a rhythm. She set up the feeling. I proved it with numbers. I made one dry joke about user abandonment and emotional abandonment being tragically adjacent, and Hannah had to turn away to hide a laugh. Marcy noticed. Everyone noticed. After rehearsal, Marcy said, "That was good, annoyingly good." Hannah bowed. "Our fake relationship thanks you." A few people laughed. I didn't. Because beneath the joke was tomorrow and Seattle and a clock ticking down on something I hadn't even been brave enough to begin. At 6:30, the office emptied into blue winter dusk. I was packing my bag when Hannah appeared at my desk holding 2 paper cups. "I brought you coffee," she said. I eyed it. "Is it an apology coffee or a goodbye coffee?" She flinched just slightly. I regretted it immediately. Then she set 1 cup in front of me. "It's a walk with me coffee." That was new, so I walked with her. We ended up 3 blocks away at a food cart pod strung with white lights. The air smelled like rain, ginger, and grilled onions. Hannah ordered dumplings. I ordered tacos. We sat at a tiny metal table under a heat lamp that painted her hair copper at the edges. It felt dangerously like a date. No laptops, no pitch deck, no coworkers pretending not to watch. Just Hannah tearing a dumpling in half with her chopsticks and sliding the bigger piece onto my tray. "You always give me the bigger half," I said. She froze, then shrugged. "You notice too much." "I notice you." The words came out before caution could tackle them. Hannah looked at me across the little table, the city noise moving around us. Then she set down her chopsticks. "I notice you too," she said. "More than I should." My hand was on the table. Hers was beside her cup. Neither of us moved. Then Hannah did. She reached across the space between us and slid her fingers over mine. Not accidentally. Not as a joke. Her hand was warm despite the cold, and my whole body seemed to understand before my mind did. "Hannah," I said softly. Her thumb moved once over my knuckle. "If I leave, I don't want to leave with you thinking you imagined this." I turned my hand and held hers. Properly. "Then don't," I said. "Don't what?" "Leave me thinking." Her eyes searched mine. For once, I didn't hide anything. "I like you," I said. "A lot. Inconveniently, probably unprofessionally. Definitely more than is wise." A smile touched her mouth, but her eyes looked vulnerable. "I like you too, Ryan." The heat lamp buzzed overhead. My heart tried to restart civilization. Then her phone vibrated on the table. She glanced down. Whatever she saw erased the smile from her face. I looked before I could stop myself. A text from a name saved as Kellen. "Don't sign anything with Luma Bridge tomorrow. We need to talk about Ryan. We need to talk about Ryan." There are sentences that make a man feel interesting. That was not one of them. Hannah turned her phone face down like it had insulted both of us. I still had her hand in mine. Or she still had mine. Either way, neither of us let go immediately, and that mattered more than I expected. Who's Kellen? I asked. My old boss. The answer came fast. Too fast to be nothing, not fast enough to be rehearsed. Old boss from Seattle? She sighed. Yes. The design studio offer? Yes. And he wants to talk about me? Apparently my voice had become very calm, which was always a bad sign. Calm was where I put things when I didn't know where else they belonged. Hannah looked down at our hands. I don't know why he said that. But he knows who I am. He knows you're presenting with me tomorrow. How? Her jaw tightened. Because I told him. I pulled back before I meant to. Hannah noticed. Of course she noticed. She noticed if a button was 2 pixels off center. A man flinching away from her hand didn't stand a chance. Ryan, she said. I stood, then immediately regretted it because standing made it look like I was leaving. And I didn't want to leave. I wanted to rewind 10 minutes to her saying she liked me. I wanted to live there a while, under the heat lamp with dumplings and her thumb moving over my knuckle. Instead, I shoved my hands into my coat pockets. So he's checking up on me? No, maybe, I don't know. That's comforting. Her eyes flashed. Don't do that. Do what? Retreat into sarcasm and hurt feelings before you ask me one real question. That landed clean. I looked away toward the line of food carts, the wet pavement shining under strings of lights. A couple walked past sharing an umbrella, laughing like the weather had been arranged for them personally. I took a breath. Then another. Okay, I said. Real question. Is there something I should know? Hannah's expression softened, but she didn't answer right away. She stood too, wrapping her coat tighter around herself. Kellen hired me at my last agency. He was my mentor for a while. Then he wanted more say in my life than he'd earned. I went still. Were you together? No. She looked me directly in the eye. Never. He asked. I said no. He got weird. The jealousy in my chest had nowhere honorable to go, so it turned into anger on her behalf. What kind of weird? The professional kind. The I'm only trying to help you kind. He'd warn me about people, tell me who was using me, who was holding me back. When I got recruited here, he said I was making an emotional decision. To move to Portland? To get away from him. I swore quietly. Hannah gave a humorless little smile. Exactly. And now he's offering you a director role? At a different studio. He's consulting there. He says it's a huge opportunity. But he's texting you about me? Yes. The food cart lights flickered in the damp air. I wanted to grab her phone, call the guy, and say several things that would get me banned from LinkedIn. But romance I was learning in real time was not the same as charging into battle with a stapler. So I asked, what do you want? Hannah blinked. I don't mean Seattle, I said. Not only Seattle, I mean right now. Do you want advice? Do you want me to be mad? Do you want me to shut up and eat half a cold taco? A real smile tugged at her mouth. That last one is tempting. I'm emotionally mature enough to offer it. Barely. Barely still counts. Her smile faded into something more delicate. I want you not to look at me like I set you up. My chest tightened. I don't, I said. I just got scared. Of Kellen? Of finding out tonight didn't mean the same thing to you. The vulnerability in that sentence left me feeling skinned. Hannah stepped closer. People moved around us, cars hissed over wet streets. Somewhere a dog barked like it had strong opinions about dinner. She reached up and touched the front of my coat, just below the collar. It meant the same, she said. I covered her hand with mine. Good. And for the record, if I wanted to use a man professionally, I'd pick one less prone to blushing. I don't blush. You turned crimson when I said, good boy. That was a medical event. She laughed, and the sound loosened something inside me. Then she looked at my mouth. Just once, not long. Long enough. My entire world narrowed to the space between us. Hannah, I said, and it came out half warning, half request. She lifted her chin. Yes? If I kiss you, is that going to make tomorrow harder? Probably. I nodded, trying to be noble. Then maybe we should. She fisted her hand gently in my coat and pulled me down. The kiss was soft at first, almost careful, like we were both waiting for the office walls to appear around us and demand documentation. Then she made a small sound against my mouth. That was the end of careful. I kissed her like I'd been trying not to for 6 months. Like every stolen glance and almost touch had gathered interest. Her hand slid from my coat to the back of my neck, cold fingers against warm skin, and I forgot the food carts, the pitch, Seattle, Kellen, everything, except the fact that Hannah Ellis wanted me close. When we broke apart, she stayed there, forehead nearly touching mine. "Still distracted?" she whispered. I laughed under my breath. "Catastrophically." "Good." I brushed a strand of hair away from her cheek. "For the record, that was not fake chemistry." "No?" "No, that was peer-reviewed." She smiled, but her eyes shone a little. And that was when I realized something important. Hannah had been brave first. With her hand, with the truth, with the kiss. She had reached for me while complicated things circled around her, and if I let fear make me smaller now, I'd regret it long after she made whatever choice came tomorrow. So I said, "I don't want to influence your decision." "You already do." My heart stumbled. She saw it and squeezed my hand. "Not in a bad way, but pretending you don't matter would be dishonest. I don't want you to stay for me if Seattle is what you want. And I don't want to leave because I'm afraid someone like Kellen will call me foolish for choosing a life I actually like." I studied her face. "Do you like it here?" Her thumb traced the seam of my sleeve. "I like my apartment. I like the rain even though it's smug. I like the weird tiny bookstore by the office. I like that Marcy pretends not to care and then remembers everyone's birthday. I like collaborating with you." "Collaborating," I repeated. "Extensively. After that kiss, I feel obligated to inform HR. Please don't. Your report would include charts. Only if they were tasteful." She laughed again, but then her phone buzzed. We both looked. She didn't pick it up. Instead, she turned it off. The gesture was small, decisive, and somehow more intimate than the kiss. "I'll deal with him tomorrow," she said. "Tonight I want to finish our food and let you walk me home." That sounds like a date. It does, doesn't it? Are we allowed to call it that? Her smile went warm and wicked. "I kissed you under a heat lamp next to a dumpling cart, Ryan. I think the naming rights are ours." So we sat back down. The tacos were cold. The dumplings were worse. It was the best meal I'd had in years. We talked about everything except the pitch for nearly 40 minutes. Her childhood in Spokane, my disastrous attempt at youth soccer, her first design award which she had won at 17 and then hidden because praise made her uncomfortable. "That explains why you insult me when I compliment you," I said. "I'm building character." "You called my shirt romantically tragic." It was. When I walked her home, the rain had softened to mist. Her apartment building had ivy climbing one side and a front step cracked down the middle. At her door, we stopped like teenagers at the edge of a curfew neither of us had. "I should go," I said. "You should." Neither of us moved. She reached for my hand again. "Tomorrow might be messy." "Probably." "Kellen may try to get in my head. The rumor at work may get louder. The pitch could go sideways." Strong sales technique. "Are you trying to scare me off?" "No." Her fingers tightened. "I'm giving you an exit before this becomes real." I stepped closer. "Hannah, I've been trying to talk myself out of you for months. I'm terrible at it." Her breath trembled into a smile. "Then don't start getting good now," she said. This kiss was slower. Less surprise, more promise. When I finally stepped back, her cheeks were flushed and her eyes were bright. "Good night, Ryan." "Good night, Hannah." I made it halfway down the block before my phone buzzed. Unknown number again. This time the message read, "Ask Hannah what happened at Alder House before you trust her in that pitch." I stood under a dripping maple tree and read the message 3 times. "Ask Hannah what happened at Alder House before you trust her in that pitch." The old version of me, the one who avoided embarrassment like it was a weather system, would have walked home, opened 17 tabs, searched Alder House until my eyes hurt, and convinced myself that whatever I found meant Hannah had kissed me out of strategy, pity, or temporary dumpling-induced weakness. Instead, I turned around. Her building door had already closed. I buzzed her apartment before I could talk myself out of it. A moment later, her voice crackled through the speaker. Forget something. My common sense, apparently. A pause. Then the lock clicked. She met me halfway down the stairs in socks, jeans, and the soft gray sweater she'd worn under her coat. Her hair was loose now. Somehow that felt more intimate than the kisses. What happened? She asked. I held up my phone. She read the message. All the color left her face. That scared me more than the words had. Alder House, I said gently. What is it? She wrapped one arm around her middle. Come upstairs. Her apartment was small and warm, with framed prints leaning against one wall like she hadn't decided where beauty belonged yet. There were plants on the windowsill, a yellow kettle on the stove, and 3 different notebooks open on the coffee table. It suited her so well my chest hurt. Hannah didn't sit. She stood by the window looking out at the rain. Alder House was a non-profit campaign, she said. At my last agency, transitional housing for young women aging out of foster care, I led the rebrand. That sounds like good work. It was supposed to be. She took a breath. Kellen was senior strategy. He wanted the campaign to feel emotionally urgent. Donations had stalled. He pushed for stories with sharper edges. What does that mean? It means he wanted to use details the residents had shared in private intake interviews, trauma, family histories, things they hadn't agreed to put in public ads. I felt my stomach turn. I said no, Hannah continued. He told me I was being precious, that if we wanted money, we needed pain, people could recognize in 3 seconds on a billboard. That's disgusting. Yes. She finally looked at me. So I killed the concept. How? I went directly to the nonprofit director and told her what he was planning. I showed her the mock-ups. She pulled the contract from our agency. Good. My agency didn't think so. I was starting to understand. Hannah rubbed her thumb over that silver moon ring. Kellen told everyone I'd sabotaged the account because I was too emotional to handle serious work. He said I'd gone behind the team, cost the agency money, and embarrassed him. Technically, parts of that were true. No. She blinked. No, I repeated, stepping closer. You protected people who trusted you. That's not sabotage. Her mouth trembled, just barely. I knew that, mostly. But when enough people repeat a story with confidence, it gets harder not to hear it in your own voice. The room went quiet. This was the thing beneath her sharp jokes and perfect posture. Not weakness, a scar. One she kept covered so carefully she'd almost convinced everyone it wasn't there. I set my phone face down on the table. I believe you, I said. She stared at me like I'd handed her something fragile. You don't want proof. I'm not opposed to proof. I love proof. Proof and I have a committed relationship. I tried a small smile, but I don't need Kellen's version before I believe yours. Her eyes filled, though she looked annoyed about it. Don't be nice, she said. It ruins my whole brand. Your brand is terrifying competence with occasional dumpling generosity. That's proprietary. I moved closer, slowly enough for her to step away if she wanted. She didn't. Instead, she reached for me. Not a dramatic collapse, just one hand curling into my shirt, her forehead lowering to my chest like she was tired of holding herself upright for a minute. I wrapped my arms around her. Her body softened against mine. And there it was. More intimate than flirting, riskier than kissing under string lights. Trust, warm and trembling between us. I'm scared, she whispered into my shirt. I tightened my hold. Of tomorrow? Of wanting things, the job, the pitch, you? Of choosing wrong and hearing his voice in my head forever. I pressed my cheek to her hair. Then we'll make tomorrow loud enough to drown him out. She gave a shaky laugh. That is either romantic or a threat against acoustics. I contain multitudes. She leaned back to look at me. You really do. I brushed my thumb lightly beneath her eye, catching a tear before she could pretend it wasn't there. Her gaze dropped to my mouth. Ryan, she said softly, if you kiss me right now, I may completely forget the presentation opening. I can live with that. I can't. The opening is excellent. Then I'll keep it brief. I failed. So did she. The kiss started gentle and turned deep, slow, and certain. Her hands slid up my chest to my shoulders. Mine found her waist, and for a few dizzy seconds there was no Kellen, no anonymous texts, no rumor at the office. Just Hannah on her toes in her quiet apartment. Kissing me like choosing me was not a complication, but a relief. When we parted, she stayed close. Brief, she murmured. I'm more of a long-form analyst. I've noticed. Her smile was still a little watery, but it was real. We spent the next hour on her couch with tea neither of us finished, rebuilding tomorrow from the inside out. Not the slides, the spine, her story, my data, our rhythm. At midnight, she looked at me over her mug. If Kellen texts me again, I'm not answering. Good. If he shows up tomorrow, then you decide how to handle him. I'll stand beside you, not in front of you. Her expression changed at that. Softened. Deepened. Thank you, she said, for understanding the difference. I thought of all the ways I'd wanted to rush in, fix it, prove something. I'm learning. At her door, leaving was physically painful. She stood with one hand on the frame. No disappearing tonight into your anxiety cave. I don't have an anxiety cave. You absolutely have an anxiety cave. It has spreadsheets. Rude but accurate. If you panic, text me. If you panic, text me. I asked first. I answered better. She smiled, then pulled me down by my coat lapels and kissed me once more. Quick this time. A promise, not a detour. Go home, Mercer. Yes, ma'am. I walked home lighter than I should have, considering my phone held 2 anonymous messages, and tomorrow could redefine both our careers. But Hannah had trusted me with the ugly story, and I had believed her. That felt like a beginning. The next morning, the office buzzed like someone had fed gossip to the espresso machine. Hannah arrived 5 minutes after I did, wearing a dark green dress and the charcoal blazer she'd forced on me yesterday draped over one arm. My mouth went completely dry. She stopped at my desk. You're staring. I'm focused. On the pricing page? Deeply. Her grin flashed, and just like that, the room shrank to the two of us. Then she handed me the blazer. Put this on. We have executives to emotionally manipulate with clean design. I stood, slipping into it. She stepped in to fix the collar, her fingers lingering 1 second too long. Someone near the kitchen whispered. Hannah didn't move away. Instead, she looked up at me and said clearly, Good luck today, Ryan. Then, softer, only for me. I'm glad. It's you. My heart did something reckless. I'm glad it's you too. Marcy appeared with a headset and the haunted eyes of a woman managing 17 disasters. Conference room, now, client is early. We walked side by side. At the glass doors, Hannah paused. Her hand brushed mine once, hidden between our bodies. I took it for half a heartbeat and squeezed. Then we stepped in. 12 executives sat around the table, and beside the CEO, wearing a navy suit and a pleasant smile, was Kellen. Hannah stopped so abruptly I almost collided with her. Kellen's gaze flicked to our hands as we separated. Then he smiled wider. Hannah, he said. Ryan, I've heard so much about your partnership. For 1 second, no one moved. Hannah stood beside me in the doorway, her shoulders squared, her face carefully blank. I knew that face now. It was the one she wore when someone had taught her that feelings were liabilities. Kellen rose halfway from his chair like a man expecting applause for existing. I hope I'm not a surprise. You are, Hannah said. Her voice was steady. Mine wasn't, so I didn't use it. Marcy shot us a glance sharp enough to slice glass. Kellen is consulting with North Star Coffee on brand transition. He joined late. Lucky timing, Kellen said. Hannah's hand brushed mine at her side. Not a request for rescue, a reminder. Stand beside me, not in front of me. So I did. I took my place next to the screen. Hannah took hers beside me, close enough that our sleeves touched. Kellen watched the contact with interest. Let him. Hannah opened the presentation, not with a tremor, not with fear, with the story we'd built together on her couch. At 7:18 on a rainy Tuesday, she began, your customer does not want to be impressed by an app. She wants to get coffee without feeling like one more decision is being demanded from her before the day has even started. The room changed. I felt it happen. Executives leaned forward. Pens paused. Even Marcy, who had seen the rehearsal, softened like she was hearing it new. Hannah made the pitch human. Then she glanced at me. Your turn. I stepped in with the data, clean, direct, no hiding behind jargon. Every number had a purpose because every number supported her story. We were good. Not fake couple good. Not office rumor good. Us good. Then Kellen raised his hand. Interesting, he said. But isn't this a little sentimental? North Star is expanding nationally. We need edge, not comfort. Hannah didn't flinch. Comfort is the edge, she said. In a crowded market, ease becomes emotional differentiation. A few executives nodded. Kellen smiled like he'd expected that. That sounds lovely. But Hannah has always been cautious about emotional risk. There it was. Alder House dressed in corporate language. My pulse jumped. Hannah inhaled once, then she looked at me. Not helpless. Choosing. I gave the smallest nod. She turned back to the table. That's not accurate. Kellen's smile thinned. Hannah continued. I'm careful with trust. There's a difference. The room went very quiet. She clicked to the next slide. User feedback from North Star's trial market. Comments about anxiety, confusion, wanting something simple. These customers are not data points to exploit, she said. They are people telling us what kind of experience would make them return. We can pressure them or we can respect them. Respect performs better. My chest expanded with something fierce and warm. Kellen leaned back, but the CEO, a silver-haired woman named Lynn Tran, was watching Hannah like she'd just answered a question no one else had understood. I stepped forward. We tested both approaches. Urgency language increased first clicks by 9%, but reduced completed onboarding by 23%. Hannah's version increased completion, repeat logins, and loyalty enrollment. I clicked once. The chart appeared. Proof, my beloved. Kellen didn't speak again. When we finished, the room sat in silence for one terrible second. Then Lynn smiled. That, she said, is the first pitch today that didn't make me feel like someone was trying to trick our customers. Marcy made a tiny sound that might have been a prayer. By noon, North Star wanted a contract. By 12:10, Kellen was gone. By 12:15, Hannah and I were alone in the small conference room because Marcy had ordered us to go, look humble somewhere private. The second the door closed, Hannah turned to me. Her eyes were bright, her hands were shaking. I reached for them. Hey. We did it, she whispered. You did it. We, she corrected. I smiled. We. She laughed once, breathless, then stepped into me so fast I barely had time to open my arms. I held her right there between the conference table and the whiteboard, surrounded by abandoned coffee cups and the ghost of every almost moment we'd wasted. I'm not taking the Seattle job, she said into my shoulder. My heart stopped, then started too hard. I pulled back. Hannah, don't decide because of me. I'm not. She cupped my face with both hands. I'm deciding because I don't want to work anywhere. Kellen's voice has a key to the room. I'm deciding because I like my life here. And yes, I'm deciding because there's a man in this office who looks at me like I'm not too much when I tell the truth. I swallowed. You're not too much. I know, she said, and her smile trembled. I'm starting to. Then she kissed me. No heat lamp, no apartment doorway, no pretending it was anything less than what it was. A choice. Outside the glass wall, someone gasped. Someone else clapped once before being violently shushed. Hannah laughed against my mouth. I rested my forehead against hers. HR? Probably. Worth it? She kissed me again, softer. Deeply. The rumor changed after that, not disappeared. Changed. People stopped whispering that we were secretly dating and started openly asking whether they should avoid scheduling us in the same room if they wanted productivity. Marcy made us sign an office relationship disclosure form with the expression of a woman trying not to smile. Derek apologized for repeating gossip, then immediately asked if he could include romantic tension as a contributing factor in the successful pitch recap. Hannah told him she would end him in tasteful typography. 2 weeks later, North Star signed. 1 month later, Hannah accepted a promotion at Luma Bridge that Marcy claimed had nothing whatsoever to do with blackmailing me with talent. 3 months later, I stopped sitting at my desk like a man awaiting trial every time Hannah walked by. Mostly, she still had power, especially when she leaned over my shoulder to look at my screen. Distracted, she would murmur. Professionally endangered, I'd say. Good. By the following spring, we had a routine. Friday nights were ours. No decks, no analytics, no emergency brand revisions unless something was literally on fire. We tried new restaurants, argued about whether minimalist menus were hostile, and took long walks in the rain because Hannah insisted Portland Mist was romantic if you stop being dramatic. She met my sister and won her over in 9 minutes by insulting my college haircut. I met her mother, who looked me up and down and said, "You seem kind. Don't make that boring." I promised to do my best. A year after that first frozen moment at my desk, I came home to our apartment, with her framed prints finally on the walls and my terrible conversion rate mug demoted to holding pens. Hannah was at the kitchen table, barefoot, hair piled messily on top of her head, sketching logo concepts for a nonprofit that supported foster youth. This time, she was doing the work on her own terms. I leaned in the doorway and watched her. She looked up. "You're staring." "I'm focused." "On what?" "You." Her expression softened in a way that still undid me. Then she held out her hand. I crossed the room and took it. She pulled me close, tilted her face up, and kissed me under the warm kitchen light while rain tapped softly against the windows. Behind her, my old mug sat full of pencils. Beside it, her silver moon ring caught the light. And for once, when Hannah leaned close, I didn't freeze. I leaned closer. What would you have done if your work crush leaned over your desk, caught you staring, and asked if you were distracted? Have you ever experienced something similar? Tell your story in the comments. And for those who'd like to be a little closer to us, we've opened memberships where you'll get shorter exclusive stories every week with no ads. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.